All right. Well, this is the opportunity for questions.
Yes.
So Nick has a question. Nick, would you like to come in and ask your question? Have a dialogue before I promote you to panelist? Ask for your permission.
Oh, he is driving, but Shannon raised her hand. So
Oh,
maybe we can ask
wonderful.
Nick just to talk without coming on camera.
Sure, Shan. I don't see. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, Shannon.
Yes, I have a question. I'm very nice presentation. Thank you. I'm not very familiar with analog versus digital video, but I was intrigued during the trailer with kind of the raw quality of the video, where there'd be fibers at the bottom and kind of light changes. And I was wondering if that was manipulated or if that's all natural. It adds a really nice quality to the video. And I would like some more background on how you chose that and how you got that effect.
Thank you so much for this question, Shannon. And it's also really nice that you noticed these special effects, because that indeed is a very natural effect of film or analog photography or filmmaking. So this is nothing that we manipulated. It was basically, or it came to a total surprise when we received the developed films back, when we watched them the first time. And every time when we had some of these effects, we were so happy, because it's just really nice and it has this special feel. So yeah, we chose for analog photographs or videos, sorry, instead of digital, because it just has this very special feel, as you just noticed now with the fibers. I mean, the video that I showed to you now, it was a lower quality because I couldn't get any other on my laptop now. And so there's, in the final one will be less fibers, but it will still have this feel to it. And we just believe that because the story of Trinitario Coco is so special, and because, so many solutions of nowadays issue, they can be solved with ancient wisdom, with tapping back into history. So we thought that making this link with analog as well would suit it very well, because it's also basically this old technique that doesn't receive so much attention nowadays anymore. So yeah, basically these stories fit quite well. But the whole process has been so interesting, because you can imagine it's like a documentary. It's not even a film with a clear written storyline where you can prepare every sequence. And of course, analog is very expensive. These film rolls, we got them from Kodak Germany because they're everywhere sold out. So we had somebody bring them over from Germany, but you really need to make sure that when you bring them through customs, that they're not scanned, because scanning them might destroy them. So it was really nice when we finally had them in Trinidad. But then, of course, we're like in the bush in the tropics. There's a lot of humidity. You constantly have to take care that it's not too moist for it, or that there is not too much light. And yeah, it was just really interesting also changing films like while being somewhere outside in the middle of nowhere. It was a good experience, and certainly for Ollie also quite a task, because he had to carry this heavy film camera all the time, and Dylan had to help changing film rolls and also always adjusting the lens, and it was just very interesting. And then afterwards, when we had all the films collected, we had to prepare again a shipment to send them to LA to a film lab, because not everywhere they're developing it. So now a second time we had like this precious film rolls that meant the world to us, because we've just spent over a week in the bush and we were just completely exhausted. And so we had to prepare a parcel again and again, trust in the universe that nowhere they would scan the parcel or that nothing would happen to it. And luckily all went well. It arrived in LA, it got processed, and we got very nice materials back. So yeah, I guess this is a little bit the story about analog and film.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I noticed another hand went up, but now I don't see it anymore. Dr. Balu? I think, was that your hand that was up?
Hello?
Haha, yes.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I didn't know. Okay, I mean, um, it's a good presentation. Thank you. But I missed part of it. My question is, how many farmers in your group, they actually make chocolate right now?
I hope I understood you correctly. You asked how many farmers are making chocolates?
In your group, you have a group of farmers you are working with. Anyone is converting all the way to chocolate or not yet?
I think most of the farmers are doing now chocolates, and the ones that don't do, they do cocoa teas.
Okay.
So like the cocoa balls, but the farmers, through being part of this cluster, they have received the opportunities of getting workshops on what is possible to do with cocoa. They got workshops on chocolate making. So they have been really lucky of having the possibility of learning about it and seeing the great benefits from it.
Mm. So can you give us some approximate number? How many?
So the cluster that I've worked with.
No, number of people that are actually making chocolate
in Trinidad.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the people that you are in your circle.
And you mean now not chocolate makers, but farmers?
Mm-hmm.
I think, let me quickly count.
So approximate.
I think it's 4.
Okay. Have you ever considered sending that chocolates here to US and try to sell it through some channel?
Yeah, of course. Right now, through this cluster, they had the possibility of getting some consultancy for the American market.
Hmm.
So it doesn't mean yet that it's happening, but there's definitely, they're definitely aiming for it. But based on climate change, farmers are at the moment facing the issue that there is not enough cocoa that actually use for the big volumes of exporting it. So if exporting, it will probably be rather like niche markets.
Yeah. Perhaps we can talk offline to see how we can make it viable.
Yes.
Just curious. Okay.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Balu, I saw that you had your hand raised. And for those of you that don't know, that was Dr. Balu from Cocoa Town.
I think soy cacao
also wants to talk.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge, Mrs. Balu, that you had your hand up.
No, I think we will let the participants talk first.
Hello, Denise. Hope everyone is well. And hold on one second. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you again.
All right, wonderful. So my name is Daniel Maloney. I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. So Denise, thank you so much for the presentation. It's always nice to see people highlighting the natural beauty of Trinidad and Tobago, and most importantly, highlighting such a important commodity for the world to enjoy and learn about. So I really appreciated the content you created. So my brothers and I started Soul Cacao, which is the Bronx first bean to bar chocolate factory. We were actually the first in New York State that's 100% Black owned, but getting away from the fact, my question is more around the challenges that the farmers are facing as a result of the floods that took place. Obviously, that was a huge red flag for me because I already know that was a huge economic shock on top of the cost for raw materials to produce the goods. So my question is are the farmers okay? Did the flood affect the ability to harvest, or did it damage the soil itself for farmers for the plants to actually continue to prosper? So I guess my question is more around how did the flood impact the morale of the farmers in Trinidad and Tobago? Because I believe I met with some people a couple of months ago, and they said we were at a third of normal capacity of annual harvest, and it was like such a steep drop. I mean, I was stunned, and I wasn't sure if that was naturally or if that was just a result of people not having an interest in cocoa production.
That is such a good point that you're making, and thanks for the kind words. And it's wonderful that you're from Trinidad as well. So for the floodings, I mean, I can only speak from the context that I know, and I'm just saying this because I want to make sure that I'm not quite sure if I can represent farmers now too well.
No worries.
But from what I know is that a lot of farmers having short-term crops, they were very severely affected because it just has basically just washed them away, or like if there's too much rain, tomatoes are dying. Like it has had really bad impacts on that, especially on land where there is no regenerative, where there has no regenerative farming being taken place because the soil just couldn't absorb any more of the water, but it was basically just like the topsoil or the soil in general was just washed away. So that was very terrible to hear and to see. So as a result, well, I've heard that there is some governmental support programs in place that might help farmers to make up for the loss, but I'm not quite sure how helpful that really is, or how accessible it is at the end for farmers to really apply for such a grant whatsoever.
Of course.
What I've heard as well is that, or that witnessed as well, is that through that, the costs of vegetables and fruits has increased a lot. It's just very supply anymore. And more specifically about cocoa farmers, I know now from one example very well is actually two examples. For instance, one farmer has told me that she wanted to harvest cocoa, and it looked like the cocoa trees had quite many cocoa pods. So it looked like a decent harvest.
Oh, good.
Then these days of rains were just happening, and the floodings, and all these days she couldn't go out to harvest cocoa because it was raining.
So they overripe and overgrew on the trees.
So basically, they were just all getting moldy and black. So when she could go out, most of the pods were black, and she said that the ones that were still good or not even ripe were eaten by squirrels or parrots. I think the estimate of a third, what you just shared to me, is not even so far-fetched, because that's probably how it looks at the moment. Like, harvest is not too
Well, thank you so much, and just for giving that explanation. And I'm also planning on visiting Trinidad and Tobago for a week, starting January 4th. I'm not sure how I can share my contact information, but I'll try over Zoom. But yeah, maybe I could bring some chocolates and we could have another conversation then. Okay. So
that would be so lovely. Please, I sent my email in the chat, so you could just email me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. I'll send you an email shortly. All right. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for the contribution of questions. I'm enjoying the Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nick is asking, since he is driving, will he have the video to watch again? So we want to let everyone know the whole presentation, the whole video will be shared with all the people who registered, because I know there are so many more people registered, but not many people to join because I think it's closer to holidays. People are busy selling chocolates or making chocolates. So everyone will get the presentation. So Dennis, when you send us the your PowerPoint presentation, will you also send the clip of the video for the participants because they want to see it again?
Yes, I'll do so.
Okay. So anyone else? Any questions?
Looks like there was a hand raised and then it went down.
Anyone else, please feel free to talk.
I see that there's a comment from Irene. I'm happy to hear that the presentation had this impact on you.
Okay, maybe you want to read the comment because it's not to everyone. I think it was sent only to you.
She says that I'm interested to look a new time at the presentation, or that the presentation is excellent. I produce Criollo and Trinitario, and this experience is very important in order to continue in our production.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, anyone else, any comments, any questions? Because we also talked about how you can use the storytelling as marketing for your own business. So you are welcome to ask the question. You don't have to ask only about the movie. You can ask about the strategy too. She'll be glad to
Balu,
help.
I just want to let you know it's very hard to hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's quiet.
Oh. Okay, let me see if I can come.
But Linda
close.
asks, they're wondering if there is a movement toward getting younger generations into farming.
That's a very good question.
Yes.
And I think that there's definitely a movement happening, but at the moment it's still very small. So especially to the foundation that I work with, the cluster, some of the younger farmers, they have the opportunity to get consultancy or to get training to get more knowledge about different cocoa processing steps or different processing techniques. But in general, I would say the movement is quite slow, and it really requires especially some attention like through this film to really reach local young people and show them that farming can be something that is so satisfying, that it can be something that offers you a lot of innovation, but also a lot of opportunities, like creating your own products, or some of them even offer cocoa tours. So there's really a lot of way in how you can develop within the field, but it really needs young people to gain more awareness about it. That's why I believe that the film is so very important. So yeah, it's a very good question. I hope that I could answer it a bit. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me better now, Teresa?
No, now it's worse.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna read Nick's comment. Nick Davis, 11 cows, comment is digital storytelling is so important in an era when so many brands are stealing the IP of authenticity. I like what you said about showing what we do, including ferments, pruning, etc. It's like a watermark of reality.
Exactly. It really conveys emotions and a relation to your brand, and it shows about like the sweats and the efforts behind what you're doing, so people can relate to it and people can value and appreciate it. So I'm really happy about your comment.
Yes. Okay. Pamela is asking, can you say what is the cluster you're working with? I missed the earlier part of the presentation.
So the cluster I'm working with is called the OFCCC. It's the Organic Fine Cocoa and Chocolate Cluster. But this cluster has basically been formed for an IDB project. And out of this IDB project came now a foundation, because the goal of this project was to make the cluster like a self-sustaining entity. And it's called the OTC, Organic Trinitario Cocoa. And I can actually, I don't know if you see me now changing screens, but I will post the link of the cluster into the chat so you can just have a look yourself. And it's a cluster of different cocoa farmers, cocoa processors, cocoa traders in Trinidad and Tobago, mainly Trinidad, I have to say. And yeah, they just come together for knowledge sharing and yeah, finding out how to access resources. And it's really great being a part of it. I hope this answers your question.
I have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
So I'm curious. You mentioned the challenges that the film goes into the challenges of the farmers. Would you be willing to share maybe one individual challenge that stands out, and then maybe a collective challenge that stands out in your mind, or that you
Mhm.
could highlight, just so
Mhm.
so we can get our heartstrings more
Yes,
pulled on?
yes. It's really nice that you come back to this individualistic and collective, because I remember I shared about it before in the presentation as well. And I have to say that most of the individual ones are also really collective at the end. But an individual would be, for instance, the case of, you know, like an older person that owns an estate and puts all his heart put into the estate. It has been owned before by many generations that have been active in cocoa. So there's this deep love and passion and the legacy of a family to cocoa and the place. And yeah, it's just very emotional. And then of course, knowing that there is no future generation that is interested in keeping up with the cocoa business, because it's just not really an appealing business. And I guess, you know, usually the kids, they then went to high schools, to universities in order to pursue a career that would be more prosperous than farming. So now, of course, there's not too much interest in overtaking the business. And then you just hear the story and you just imagine yourself being in the shoes of that person that puts his whole life and soul into this estate. But you basically know that after you, you know, it will probably continue with it, because life always continues and the plants won't mind. They just keep on thriving, I guess. But just knowing that it may be abandoned, or there will nobody be taking care of it, or it might even potentially be sold. I guess that's just one of these examples of the challenge that they're facing, or that one particular person is facing. And then on the broader context, it's of course the issues of, as I said, of the changing climate patterns, that it's just so difficult to increase production, to increasing demands, whereas there's so much black pot and diseases and yeah, I guess this is in a nutshell an example.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope, I think that changes. Unfortunately, like, you know, like I said, if the farmers are not there, we are not here. Yes, we can go to the city, we can earn money, but what do you eat? You cannot eat money. We need the farmers, and we have to make sure we take care of them. So it's a, I think, collective responsibility for all of us. I think, you know, that's why we like the chocolate industry, because all the chocolate makers, they want to have direct connection with the farmers, or they know where the cocoa beans are procured from. So they make sure that farmers get the benefit, you know, even small quantities, that goes a long way.
Exactly. It's really powerful.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we are in business, because without the farmers, we are not here. We know we cannot be in business. So they are the ones. So, you know, and also, you know, I want to say for all the participants, you know, Dennis gave us in the beginning the value proposition for your company. So if you want to try doing it and get her feedback, you're welcome to do that too, because we want to make sure that you also gain something from this. You know, webinar, for spending the time, you need to make sure that you feel that it was worth your time. So you feel free to, you know, write up the value proposition. You can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can let you talk and you can, tell about your proposition. We would like to hear from you.
Mrs. Butler, while we're waiting for that, and now that we can hear you, would you like to read Robert's comment?
Yes, I can read. 1 second. Yeah, Robert is saying there's a bad tendency within the Caribbean area of traditional farmers to switch to high demanding crops. In addition, Mother Nature is treating farmers badly. I'm from Haiti and the tendency is quite an issue. Yeah, so all over the world, there's some problem, like, the young generation leaving. That's, yeah, that's Robert is saying.
Exactly. I also very much agree to what you're saying, Robert. So really often it is chosen for gene manipulated crops, or or using conventional oh god, how is it called? Right now my mind is going blank. Fertilizers, just for the short-term gains, but at the end you're not doing yourself, neither your estate really like a benefit through it, because diseases will eventually most likely take over, and then you're at the ruin as well.
Linda, would you like to talk?
All right. I don't know if somebody has to unmute her, or if she can just speak, or
I've
she.
just given her the. It says I gave her permission, but I've invited her to come on in, Linda.
Okay, I don't know if it works.
It did. We hear you.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Hi. So first, let me say thank you so much for this presentation. It was super, super interesting. I'm not into cacao farming in the sense of I don't have close connection with it, because living in Sicily, we do different things at our farm. But I do have the aspect of the storytelling, and we do need to consider our products, and the changing of the climate and the weather conditions do affect our crops drastically and dramatically. And I find, because we are, I don't want to say as some of the Trinidad Tobago farmers, but there's somewhat the connection of having a small enterprise and trying to number one, get the public involved, and number two, make sure that your product is reaching a market. It doesn't even have to be like, I mean, if you have a farm, your neighbors are not necessarily your target. Your target is often a little further than your immediate community, because number one, in my immediate community, most people can't pay for organic product. So we do run a permaculture site, but the product we have is unreachable for the people that we would like to serve. And I had the pleasure and the absolute benefit of trying Trinidad chocolate. And it was incredibly delicious. I think it was one of the best chocolates that I ever had. And the packaging was so beautifully made. And I thought that would be so good for us. But I find it difficult to engage with a product that seems so, I don't want to say far away, because of course, you know, we're in this chat and we have this conversation, but I find it hard to, like, I would love to engage with the chocolate, but I find it hard to get it, because export, like Denise explained, if I understood correctly, is very difficult in small quantities. And I find the same with our product. So I was wondering, are there other options for us little people to get involved?
Thank you so much, Linda. It's nice to hear you, and it's nice to hear your comment. I very much appreciate it. And I'm glad that you enjoyed the presentation as well, and Trinitario Football. Well, I'm not quite sure if you spoke about two different things, or that you combine. So on the one hand, like the storytelling on packaging, and then of course I'm exporting it with small quantities and reaching the customers. And I do agree that that is something that is quite difficult. But once you have reached the segment, which may be through a market, maybe an organic market that just has a lot of consumers that are really conscious and aware, and they choose to spend a little bit more for your products, or you don't offer a lot, but that's the special thing about it. Or whether it is maybe online or to a restaurant. So I think there is ways of doing things if you have small quantities, but it needs to be a very well worked out system. So what you could do is either together with a cluster, maybe a cluster as well for you of different organic farmers in a region of Sicily, and that you together could create a collective that at the end of the day had more demand, because at the end of the day, like, working in systems is so much more powerful than working as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So that maybe would be an idea. Or there's one concept in Trinidad that is just emerged very recently, I think. It's called Market Movers. And it's a really nice platform where you can just choose the products that you want to buy. Is it either organic chocolate or organic produce like cucumbers or provisions or whatsoever? You order it and then it gets delivered to your house. And I suppose that they, for instance, also don't receive their products from only one farmer, but from a collective of farmer, and it's then being sold through them. So I think coming together and working as a team is the most helpful thing if you have small quantities that are not enough to satisfy a market properly, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a really good idea. I think, like you said, I think there is a different collective we generally need to connect to.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And when it comes to the storytelling aspect, I don't know if I understood it right, but I'm very happy that it inspired you. And I think it's, again, a really wonderful reminder of what I shared in the beginning, that there is no formula of how to do it. It's so context dependent. And of course, it's difficult to create the same kind of packaging that has a beautiful narrative of a lettuce in comparison to a chocolate bar. But yeah, I still think that there are ways of doing it. If you're just creative and you think a little bit outside the box. Is it either materials that you're using that are organic, or maybe you integrate some artwork of a local artist, integrating and supporting the local art scene and combining it with your products. Or there's many ways of doing it, and I don't have the perfect answer now. Sorry.
No, I think there is no, and it's absolutely not needed. There's no perfect answer, because I think that's the creativity and the like you said, using the surroundings and your opportunities, and try to search for them and grab them while they're fresh and running. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Linda, what we also, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing, what we have been recommending, and also the Cross Atlantic Collective does it too. You can make the nibs or the couverture in the origin and bring it. Then it's cheaper to transport. And bringing the beans, it takes the volume, and also when it comes, you roast it and you take the husk. You lose about 20%, so you're paying more for the thing that you're going to waste. Instead, you teach the farmers that you're working with to make into your nibs the way you want. You teach them the roasting profile. You teach them the cracking and winnowing. So you bring the nibs here and then make the chocolate. So when you bring as a nib, as the ingredient, then it's cheaper for the I think even the duties are also different, I think, because you're bringing the ingredient, you are not bringing the finished product. And then they don't have to worry about the tempering and also transporting. In the summer in US, it gets hot and you have to worry about melting. Whereas you get as a couverture and then you do the tempering here and then package it. So it will be a win-win for everyone because it's less labor for you and then more value addition for the origin countries.
Yeah, and more involvement for a lot of people surrounded by the product. So it's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
And also we have seen people using cocoa leaves as the packaging material in Brazil. So that's another thing that you can help the the community. It's not just the farmers, their neighbors, or anyone to make some of the additional packaging products, because everywhere people are getting more interested in the natural products, and then reducing the waste. So that's another idea that you can look into.
Yeah, I will absolutely do that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Linda.
I wanted to read Irene's comment. From our national university national are visiting our farm in order to make investigation monography from. They're very happy to have the opportunity process samples from tree to fermentation and chocolate liquor.
That is really wonderful to hear, that there is such an appreciation.
Yes. Okay, let's see. Robert.
Did Robert still have his hand raised?
Yes, but
or not anymore? Okay.
Okay, allowed to talk. Okay, Robert, you can open your mic.
Hi, Robert.
Robert, can you unmute yourself?
I think we lost his connection.
Uh-oh.
I don't see him.
Oh, you're right. I don't see him either.
Yeah. So in the meantime, anyone else want to do the value proposition? Nobody's raising the hands. So I think maybe
Balu, can you explain what you mean when you say value proposition?
Like she gave us the template in the beginning of the thing. Maybe okay, Denise, can you share that slide?
Yes.
So people can see it. Maybe, sorry, I should ask you to do that before asking people to come up with that, because it talks about, you tell, how do you make an elevator pitch about your company? So, Linda, sorry, Denise, you can explain this maybe. So, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yes, the value proposition. It really clearly outlines some major elements of your business that are needed in order to clearly define what you're doing. What is the value that you're generating? Which problem are you solving? And what is unique about your business? And oftentimes what we do, we really well know what we do because we do it every day, like all week long. But yet when we communicate it to people outside of us, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to immediately make them grasp what it is about. Or also just imagine maybe your organization is at the stage where you want to address investors because you want some funding. And therefore it just is really helpful being aware of your value proposition. So yeah, if any one of you is interested in sharing their thoughts about it, or in maybe applying this to your organization, or to, as I said before, just making a snapshot and doing it in peace afterwards. Yeah, none is forced, but of course, if you want to, feel free to do so.
And I see Robert is here, and you're welcome to open your mic and ask your question or give your comment.
Do you hear me, guys?
Yes, sir.
My question isn't really a question. It's like something that I'm observing today, because in Europe, let's say that they have a lot of organization like within the European Union. Let's say that they go to Haiti, let's say that, and they want the crops. They give you all the information, all the training and incentive for the farmers to come to a certain level of production, and they come get the products in Haiti. Because during the pandemic, we saw, like big ships from France, even, with, there was no way to go out, but they come and get the products, the cacao, and they go back to Europe with it. So I'm concerned about it because we are in a level of organic, you know, because of our environment, because of the care and stuff, versus as opposed to this big corporation, I will say like that. And it's really difficult. Even in my own country, people don't even know what happened with the cocoa pod. They don't even know if the chocolate bar are coming from the cocoa pods. So I don't know if Dennis, you can,
Oh, it looks like we lost him again.
Yes. Why I don't just want to talk.
tell us, that the Creole is better in terms of flavor and characteristic and so on.
Robert, do you mind sharing the last part again? Because we lost you for a moment.
I think looks like his internet is unstable.
Yes.
Wow. Oh. Are you there, guys?
Yes.
Are you there, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet service is unstable. I'm with Comcast and I have like 400, like megabytes. I don't know what's going on. So, well, yeah, basically, the concern is big corporation versus, farmers that dedicate their life, attention, and resources toward planting and crops, and always send them back to these big corporations.
Yeah. I think this is an issue that is happening at many places of cocoa origin. And it's certainly a big problem because it's basically an exploitation of land and people. And I think it's really sad to hear what you're witnessing with these big ships that just come and take back these huge amounts of products. But therefore, I think it's very, very powerful to create spaces for knowledge sharing or clusters that educate farmers, that give farmers the opportunity to try some chocolate themselves, to experience what is actually possible to do with cocoa, because eventually how most of the cocoa farmers make most of their money is if they go further in the ladder of value added products, because you eventually earn, I don't have now precise numbers, but you earn so much more from a kilogram of chocolate than from a kilogram of cocoa pods, not even cocoa pods, cocoa beans, excuse me. And of course there's some process behind it, but it's also a very empowering process to educate farmers how to use cocoa town machines, for instance, in making their own products, and to appreciate the flavors, like the science behind it, because ultimately chocolate making and growing cocoa is such a science, and it's beautiful to witness when people really, when they bloom in what they're doing. So I think it's definitely, or certainly it's a very energy draining way to go. But I think it seems like in your land there's a lot of opportunities to bring about change by educating farmers, by giving them the chance to maybe invite them into your little chocolate lab and letting them try chocolates or something. And I really hope that there will be more of these projects in place, so that not all cocoa is exported, but you actually make the chocolate and consume it, or even export them the chocolates. I hope that answered your question a bit, Robert, or just build up on your comment.
I wanted to just briefly touch back on the beginning of the presentation and just say how that you simplified very nicely a complex, you know, idea of, storytelling and marketing. You made it a lot easier to digest, and I appreciate that.
I'm really happy to hear. Thanks for the feedback, Teresa.
Yeah, it sometimes can be an overwhelming process.
Yes, because we also have.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Well, yeah, we have all these stimuli. I mean, we're all on social media, and there's so much branding and marketing happening. It's almost like our senses are overstimulated, and we feel like we need to keep up to what others are doing. Others are sharing about the way how they integrate minorities. Oh, we need to do this now as well. Others speak about how they empower women. Oh, we have to do this as well. And I can imagine that this is something that is really stressful. I mean, I experience it myself. Social media is the biggest blessing, but sometimes it's also just the most energy draining thing ever. So I think it's very important that we separate from this idea of expectations and what we think our brand needs to entail, but that we rather search really deep within what are our values and what is our very unique story. And this story doesn't need to be like the stories of others. It's really yours. And the more unique you are, the better it is for people around you to see what is special about what you do. And so they really want to support you. And it's at the end, not only about the great product that you're doing, but it's also about what a wonderful person you are. So, yeah.
Vasu says they never heard of the 4 Ps.
Yeah, the 4 Ps, they're helpful.
Yeah, it's great. And then Pamela says, can you go back to the sponsorship packages a bit? They lost their audio while you were speaking about that.
Of course. So we have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity if you wish to support via crowdfunding. Sorry, I got so loud, I got shocked myself. We have the opportunity to support via crowdfunding, and so far we already raised 5,200 euros. I don't exactly know what's the equivalent of dollars, but I expect it's the same, more or less. And if that's something you could imagine, then I invite you to scan this QR code with your phone or note down the link for the GoFundMe. Or maybe I could even put it in the chat afterwards. Or regarding these sponsorship packages, which is for corporations or individuals that want to contribute more, or corporations that would also like to have some accreditation, or how should I say, that would like to be part of it and have their names in the short film as well as being a supporter. There's different things we offer. For instance, invitation to the film opening in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, I have to disappoint that it won't cover flights and accommodation. I guess that's out of our budget, but it's certainly the invitation to the event itself, and credits in the film as being a sponsor with your logo and or your identification, which might be a name. And then building up on that, we offer brand presence and tailored marketing communication products for your social media or for your newsletters or whatever it may be. And within the last package, this means that you're an entitled co-producer and you're more involved in the process. And at the same time, you also receive this role within the credits of the film. I hope this answered your question.
So since we're talking back about the film, I have some questions. So if so, you have a budget. So first, I just want to say, so analog. That means that you've shot it with film, actual film, which it's interesting to think about. But there's whole generations of people don't know. Like when I think about my nieces who are teenagers, they don't know what that means. They don't know what it means, to shoot with film. So I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about what, you have a budget of the money that you need. So w- talk a little bit about where what do you need that money for? So that people understand that, the film, it's a, it's a, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's somewhat of a dinosaur. So you had to seek it out, and I'm sure it's not cheap because nobody's buying it, so they got to get their profit somewhere, right? And then you have to process it, which who the heck is doing that these days? So
Yeah.
that's probably very expensive. And so, can you talk a little bit about that?
So for this primal stage of the production, which was the pre-production and parts of the production, we were very fortunate to have corporate sponsorship that enabled us to have this initial funding with which we bought the film rolls, with which we had them shipped here. I mean, for our shooting week, I had to organize a van and accommodation if we couldn't stay at the Cocoa Place itself. And of course, food and everything. And then in the end, shipping it back to the States and having it processed there. So that basically ate up all of these funds. And now with this additional money that we want to raise, we really want to focus on finishing the product, which means that ideally we would like to have one more run with one day where we take a little bit more footage, because you have to understand that this is a documentary. We didn't have a storyline, so it's more exploratory. So now that we put together some sequences of visual and interviews, we realized like, oh, maybe here it would have been nice to have a little bit more shot of this or of that, or we would like to have a little bit more chocolate making integrated. So therefore we want to raise money. But then we also want to raise money to hire a local musician that composes music that is really specifically composed for this film. And this person has background information about the characters. So it's very individual and very emotional, I believe. And that's something that is very powerful. We would also like to work together with a sound designer or a sound mixer, because thanks to the fantastic work of Shalani, we have really nice sounds of the days that we were in the field, of like different scenes. And this person basically helps to create really a quality that touches or reaches all the senses, and that helps you as well to compete on international markets for film festivals, because that is as well where we need some money for marketing of the film festivals, and also applying to them, because unfortunately almost nothing in this world is for free, and neither is that. So the application for film festivals, that will also require quite some funds, and we of course we know that this piece will be amazing. Just the fact that it's shot by film, and the fact that it speaks about such a really specific topic that is also told by farmers, and then of course the integration with the sounds and the music and their stories, it's just something very powerful for Trinidad and Tobago, for the Caribbean, but also for the world, I guess. So yeah, now I lost my train of thoughts. But yeah, basically because of that, we really want to apply at a variety of film festivals. And yeah, that's basically what would consume the final amount of the money. And we would of course also want to make sure that we, like the whole film crew, are getting a fair share for our work, because of course we also can't live off of love and light only. It works for a few days, but then you have like crumbling stomachs. So yeah, that's basically it. And it would be really wonderful if we received your support for it as well.
Right, thank you so much. All right, well, we've reached the top of the hour. I don't know where the time went.
Yes, that's
Mrs.
true.
Balu, anything you want to add?
I will stop
Sorry,
sharing my screen.
I'm trying to do it from two different things. Okay, so I just don't want to switch on the wrong one. Okay, sorry, I have to start from a different device so you guys can
Yes.
hear. So thank you so much. It's the top of the hour. Everybody is busy for the holidays. So we wish you a happy, healthy, peaceful, prosperous holidays and New Year. And we just want to tell all of you something. Coco Town is right now having 12 days of Coco Town sales. So you get to save on everything that Coco Town sells, and the sale ends on 24th. So if any of you are interested in any of them, machines or parts, anything, please check our website. And also, we want to thank you, Denise, for taking your time to present this webinar. And we basically learned a lot. And I myself, I need to work on those value proposition you gave, and then learn from it. So
Right.
thank you for that. And there is
Well, my head is spinning. I know I say that every once in a while in a webinar, but there's so much information in the front half, and then so much that touched my heart in the second half of the presentation about the film. And so just thank you so much, Denise, for the work that you've done. I know it started out as a sort of a research for your education process, and then it turned into something even bigger, maybe bigger than you thought. So thank you for that. And thank you, everyone. This is the last webinar of 2022. Hard to believe, but so thank you for all the support, everyone that has shown up to the webinars and registered. And we appreciate your support. And just who knew when we started this that it would be so impactful, and that it would continue to go, and people continue to be willing to share their knowledge. So I think that's it for me, Mrs. Balu, Denise.
Yeah, I also thank you so much, you, the Coco Town team, for the opportunity of having me here today to share about my journey and to share about everything that I've been doing. It's been really nice. I really appreciate your support throughout the days and weeks of preparing it, and connecting to you was very nice. And of course, thanks as well for everybody that visited and listened and shared. It was very, very valuable for this presentation, I would say. And I wish you also all very happy holidays, and yes, lots of success for your businesses or for your personal journeys.
thank you all. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Have a safe rest of the day.